Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the cockpit of the Tornado IDS/GL1 from Microsoft Flight Sim. This is a pre-release version for Indiafoxtecho's Tornado. Whilst we wait for it to be released, hopefully sometime soon, whilst they finesse some finer points, I'm going to take it for some VFR flying. So we're going to get airborne from RAF Marham, take it up and do some aerobatics, then bring it back for a run and brake and bash the pattern. I'm Chris, cgaviator, your resident ex-Tornado GL4 pilot, so let's get going. Nice. Okay, speed is alive. I'm going to use 165 for my rotate speed because that's a reasonable number. 165, decent pull, get climbing 3 to 4 degrees nose up. Gear comes up. Gear's travelling. I'm going to put the flaps up now. .250 knots, the burner comes out. Flaps up. Gears up. 300 knots, and then it depends on what you want to climb at. Let's go for 300 knots and up to about 5,000 feet, ready for some aerobatics. Now, a lot of the flight dynamics is still under review. Caveat, this is pre-release, of course, so if you notice any bugs, let me know. I'll pass them on to the developer, but things may change prior to release. So we are at 4,000 feet. Of course, I do my ops checks, my HASSLG checks, checking the height. I'm going to use 5,000 feet AMSL, which is good enough for us. Airframe, gear flap, air brake all up and in. G limits, well, I don't quite remember what the G limits are for this this configuration, so we're not going to go above 5G, so we'll say it's fine. Spills is on, so that's not an issue either. I think the maximum was 21 alpha with spills on, I believe. Security pockets, maps, taps, loose articles, everything's clear in the cockpit. Lookout we're doing all the time, clear of active airfields, built areas, clouds, controlled airspace, danger areas, G warm-up you'd ordinarily do, and now we are pretty much good to do some aerobatic. I found my line feature, which is going to be Marham's runway, which makes sense. I'm going to start at 320 knots with the manoeuvre correction with the wings at 25. And the two things I'll reference throughout this manoeuvre is the alpha, or the AOA, which is top left gauge, and the G meter, which is top right gauge. 25 wing, 320 knots ish. Make sure I start at 5,000 feet. And here we go. So 320 knots, close enough. Burner goes in at 350 knots. Full 4G. There's 4G. Keep the stick coming back in order to keep the 4G as the speed reduces. Once we hit 16 AOA, we're going to hold the 16 AOA. When the nose comes back towards the horizon, I'm going to cancel the burner nice and early because I've got a bit more power than I'm used to here. Look down for my line feature, maybe 5 or 10 degrees off. And I'll keep that 16 alpha, really important to hold that 16 alpha. As we accelerate again, the G will start climbing and then we'll hold the 4G once the G becomes primary. There's 4G, through 7,000 feet, 6,000, and then finesse back to 5,000 feet. Gained a little bit of speed, gained about 300 feet in altitude. Next we're going to do a barrel roll. So wings 25, 350 knots, it's going to be dry power only, and we'll use the reference off to the left, that kind of big green patch over there, that'll do. So we're close enough on parameters. Max dry, 350 knots. This time I'm going to go for 3G pitch, turn into 15 alpha. I'm looking for 45 degrees nose up, and then I'm going to start rolling. Ideally I'd have a better 90-degree feature to work to, but this will do. The wings inverted, fully inverted through the horizon, 10,500 feet. I need to make sure that my nose comes back down as much as it went up, because I don't want to gain too much altitude on the back end of the barrel roll. Pull the power because I've got a little bit of excess, 7,000 feet, looking for 5,000, finessing that back pressure, and I gained, well, probably 700 feet there. So that is your basic barrel roll. We can do a roll off the top maneuver, so I'll re-enable the reheat. The first half is the same as a loop, except when we get to 10 degrees inverted nose up, then I'll cancel the AB and roll the correct way up. So here we go. Burners in. 350 knots. 4G. 16 alpha. Having a look left and right. Holding that alpha. Over the top, we ideally want less than 200 knots, so I'm pulling the power early. We want 6,000 feet, 10 degrees nose up, and I'll roll the correct way up. And from here, I'm ready to go into a half roll pull through. That's what we call it in the RAF, and that's probably not entirely correct. So we're up here, we've got 6,000 feet above base height, we're less than 200 knots. I'm going to pitch 10 degrees nose up, roll, I'm idle, she's a little sluggish. There we go, and pull straight to that 16 alpha with idle selected. That view, look at that. That's nice. 9,000 feet, a bit high on the alpha. 7,000 feet, 6,000 feet. Oh, and squeaked through it by about 140 feet, but not too bad. You get the idea. What we'll do is put in the burner now, and we'll go for a 450 knot entry with wings at 45. What I've lost is my line feature, but there's one down here. Let's use this long line of hedges. Now once I complete here, we'll go back to Marham. I've got the TACAN showing me 9 miles to the south by the looks of it. Okay, so the same for the loop with 45 wing is the same, but it's 420 knots entry. So I'm going to pull 4G at 420 knots, convert to 16 alpha. Up we go. Nice. 16 alpha. Cancel the burner. I'm pulling the power back kind of halfway. Over the top we had about 7,000 feet above base. Still looking along that line feature, so we're quite nice in our orientation. Bit high on the alpha. 8,000 feet, 7,000 feet, 6,000 feet. And not too bad. Within 100 feet, not busting 5,000 feet. So that is the basics to aerobatics in the Tornado from Indiafoxtecho. Now things may change in terms of the flight dynamics prior to release, but at least that gives you an idea of what you can do and some of the parameters you should be looking for in order to get them nice and consistent. Alright, let's head home. I guess it'd be rude not to just pop into low level on the way back. We'll do a run and a break from 500 feet, climb to 1,000, and I'll just show you around the visual pattern a little bit. Wings 45. Nice. Nice. Right, the needle on the TACAN is slowly rotating around to 060. I know the runway orientation is 060. We are 7 miles away, so what I'll do is I'll pop up to 2,000 feet. Ordinarily you'd stay at 2,000 feet, not below because that's low level territory. Cruise to 2,000 feet, and once you get inside the mats, then you drop down to whichever height you're going to brake at. Alright, anyone see an airfield round there? There's one, we'll take that one. That'll do. 3,000 feet. So we should be talking to tower. We're looking for initial about 3.5 miles on the dead side, and I'm using a pattern to the south. I think that's accurate. 2,000 feet there. Inside 5 miles, I'll go down to 500 feet and I'll push it back up to 420 knots. 1,000 feet. And initial. Sweet. So we're looking 1,000 feet downwind with the wingtip scraping the south edge of the runway. And that should be our spacing reference. Okay, I've reset having had a little bit of practice. We'll see how this one goes. I'll do a demo for the first one, so I won't talk through everything I'm doing. I'm not trying to be perfect, I'm not doing proper checks, I'm just showing you some of the techniques. We have got wings 45, we're about 430 knots. And here we go, roll, pull, idle, air brake. Not too much nose up. Through 350 knots, the wings are going to go to 25. I'm using about 2.5, 3G. Through 250 knots, the speed brake can come in, or the air brake. I'll keep it out just a smidge longer, make sure I get enough speed off prior to the checks. Okay, air brakes in, 240 downwind, trim back because I've lost 100 feet of height. There we go, and I'm looking for my wingtip to track just inside the runway a little bit. Probably a little bit wide, let's see. So here we are below 235, gear's going to travel down, flap's going to travel to mid. I'm not working any speeds, mostly I'm just playing with the alpha at the moment. We've got 3 greens, we've got flaps mid. We're about 1,000 feet, so that's decent. I'm looking for a feature to tip final around, so I think this crossroad might work. Whilst I'm using the mouse, I've climbed a little bit, but that will do. Pitch, power, flap down, don't let the nose sink. About 11 alpha around final turn, about 45 degrees angle of bank will work. Don't lose too much of that speed washes off pretty quick. I've caught it this time. Nice. The shadows, like a bit of shadow. If you've got any questions, by the way, put that in the comments below. I'm happy to answer those. Did I overshoot it a little bit? Yeah, I could have banked up a little bit. But that's alright. I'll take that. Pull the power to get myself back to 11 alpha, so I'm a little bit fast. Aiming at that threshold. 11 alpha. Alright, idle, flare, flare, flare. Not bad. Keep the nose wheel off. Dry power. Checking the engines. 150 knots will do, climbing away. Gears coming up. Flaps travel to mid. I don't think they come up is what I remember. So flaps are mid, gear is up. About 400 to 500 feet we will pitch to the right. About 50 degrees angle of bank gives us the decent spacing. I'll pull that power to make sure that we don't go too fast. Right, through 700 feet for 1,000. Let the nose drop, pull the power. Overshot it by 200 feet, crikey. Okay, here's a decent forest. I seem to remember being on the outside edge of this forest would also help with the downwind references. Fuel! There is definitely time to land after this one. Right, speed's good, height's reasonable, heading's good, spacing is a little bit tighter. We'll see if we get away with this one. Gear, flap is already at mid. That's the mission complete light. I think it's 250 kilos. Yeah, it's a bit tight. Cool, low, 3 greens, mid flap, slats down. Oh yeah, this spacing is tight. Okay, tip in, let's not rush ourselves. There we go. Pitch pad pull, down flap, 3 greens. Don't get too slow. Make it a good one, otherwise we'll be ejecting because we'll flame out. There's that speed gone, look. It quickly washes off. Okay, that's better. A little bit low. What am I, 480 feet? Oh, it was a little tight on that one. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was of value. If it was, then help support the channel. Like and subscribe is always much appreciated. If you've got any questions, put them down below. And fingers crossed this aircraft gets released very soon. Until next time, take care and fly safe.